Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
6:37 on WMAL. Happy Thursday morning to you. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson. We've got Governor Bob McDonnell from Virginia coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll talk to him for a good 20, 25 minutes. Looking forward to that. He'll be live in the studio. Lanny Davis is here, former Clinton White House counsel. Good morning, Lanny. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. So we've talked a lot about this week, the trip to Afghanistan that the president made, the one-year anniversary, getting bin Laden, his death. So when the president went to Afghanistan, did he spike the football or did he dance in the end zone?
Well, I think I remember my friend, previous President George Bush, landing on an aircraft carrier and declaring mission accomplished.
Yeah, but that was wrong, wasn't it? We can all agree that maybe that was not his best moment. And the question then becomes, well, is this the Obama equivalent of the mission accomplished banner?
Well, it's similar to it, but I think in this case, President Obama was remarking about an important agreement between the Afghanistan government and the United States. He was careful not to say the words victory or that this thing is going to be easy. But I'm struggling here because I really didn't like this speech. I don't like the position. I think we should be out of Afghanistan and not spend our billions on a corrupt government. There was nothing about Karzai being corrupt. There was nothing about why we're spending billions of dollars. And most importantly, there was nothing about why one single American soldier should be put at risk. If we are about the Taliban, he said we're talking to the Taliban. If we're about Al-Qaeda, then we can kill them with drones. I just honestly disagree with this president, as I did with President Bush, about the mission in Afghanistan.
Well, you know, we do have troops in other parts of the country. I mean, other parts of the world. We still have them in Korea, still have them in Germany. I mean, even though they're going to be in Afghanistan, we don't know how big the numbers are going to be. My guess is that they'll be much smaller than they are now. And if they're there to go on missions when they need to go on missions and to help keep the peace and to perhaps go after some bad guys while Afghanistan is putting together a government, I don't understand why that's such a terrible thing for you or for anybody else for that matter.
Well, if I had a son fighting in Afghanistan, I'd want to know if he dies, why is my son dying? Is he dying for a corrupt government that's stealing billions of dollars for the United States without any sign that that's going to change? Even a government that denounces us when we defend our own people, and even soldiers in the Afghan so-called security forces that shoot us and kill us. This reminds me of Vietnam. It doesn't remind me of Germany. So I think there are a lot of conservative Republicans, a lot of Democrats. And I respectfully say this, I support Barack Obama for re-election. And the Secretary of State is somebody that I admire and feel friendship towards. I just honestly disagree that there's any purpose in putting Americans at risk when we have drones that can kill Al-Qaeda, which we're doing in Pakistan, and we have air power if the Taliban uses Afghanistan as a base for Al-Qaeda. But the very day after President Obama actually said we were talking to the Taliban, they attacked and tried to kill us.
Sure.
So I just don't see a future in Afghanistan. I think there are a lot of Americans who agree with me. The billions and billions of dollars we're spending there, and the amount of money that almost $1 trillion that we've spent there. This is 10 years ago.
Fair enough, but if you leave altogether and you don't have any footprint whatsoever, that just gives the Taliban the ability to do what it wants to do. It's carte blanche. This at least gives the government, whether it's the Karzai government or hopefully it's another government down the road, some stability, some hope that they have some backup to put the kibosh on the Taliban when it's needed. And
we probably need to go into western Pakistan and kill Al-Qaeda that's planning another 9/11 a lot faster than going into Afghanistan and having our kids exposed with a corrupt government, supposedly, who we're defending. I'm against these awful, despicable Taliban. And I'm certainly in favor of killing them, but President Obama actually talked about talking to them. It just was a confusing policy to me. I think it's a tough call. This isn't a clear case for me. I'm not exactly comfortable with pulling out completely. But we've got air power, we have drones, and we don't have anything the president said about Mr. Karzai. Clean up your act if you want one American soldier to be at risk. Stop stealing our money. Stop criticizing us when we defend our kids. You want us to be here, then be an ally. I didn't hear any of that.
Yep.
I only heard sweet talk, and I say this respectfully, he's the president. I think both presidents, Bush and Obama, agreed on this one, and I'm maybe the dissenter against the broad consensus. But I think if you look at the polls, most Americans are sort of feeling uneasy the way I am.
I want to ask you about, you've written a column that has to do with Eric Holder and Daryl Issa. Now, there's all this fast and furious stuff. The folks who are trying to investigate this matter say they have been thwarted at every attempt to get the documents they need. That when they do indeed get documents, sometimes they are blank pages. Sometimes they are heavily redacted. Sometimes they don't get documents that they know through other sources do exist. And so now there is the thought that since we're getting sort of stonewalled by the Department of Justice, maybe we need to hold... Lanny,
thousands of documents don't be stonewalled. Where were you when it was the Democrats insisting on the Bush Justice Department turning over documents about all the firings of U.S. attorneys and threatening people with contempt of Congress? This is hypocritical double standard. The Democrats were wrong when they did it. The Republicans are wrong when they do it. And you're wrong for taking one side when it was Mukasey under at two occasions.
Wait, Lanny.
Ridiculous tactic. And why aren't
I never even got to my question, Lanny.
Attorney General Mukasey get brought before Daryl Issa for the same.
Before you jump down my throat, Lanny, you ought to let me ask the question that I wanted to ask.
And you know it.
Come on, Lanny, let me ask the question that I wanted to ask. You didn't even give me a chance to finish.
Sorry.
So the question is whether or not there should be a contempt citation against.
Of course not.
Well, why not if they're not being responsive to the very reasonable request from Daryl Issa
in the Bush administration? Would you have, yes or no?
Well, I don't think that there were not cases where you knew there were documents. And
we knew there were documents about the firings of the U.S.
Wait a second, but
weren't turned over to Congress.
The Justice Department and the President has the ability to fire anyone he wants in the Justice Department.
Are you denouncing Attorney General Mukasey for supervising the same program that allowed illegal guns to cross the border? And it's Eric Holder who's denounced that program and ordered an IG investigation. If you're even-handed with me, I'll be even-handed with you.
Well, the Operation Wide Receiver was a little bit different, but the question and what we're trying to get to,
the same exact technique with guns that were illegally purchased, allowed to cross the border into Mexico, hundreds found in drug cartels.
I think that's a statement in question, Lanny.
Has said it was the same technique, and Eric Holder has denounced it and ordered an IG investigation. Now let's be even-handed.
Well, that's fine, but why not look at the actual documents that Congress wants to see? Why can't those be released?
Well, for the same reason that Ronald Reagan said, and I'm being even-handed, there are open law enforcement file documents that are not being produced. Other than that, the Justice Department has produced everything that ICE has asked for. And when the Democrats made the same argument, why aren't you giving us all the documents? Bush Justice Department Republicans denounced this as a violation of the constitutional principle of open investigations don't get turned over to Congress, to separation of powers. My friends, this is the double standard. When Democrats did it, I was uneasy with the politicization of a law enforcement problem, and that's exactly what's going on now with the Republicans. The Democrats are getting their just desserts. The Democrats are getting their just desserts for doing it to the Bush Justice Department, and now the Republicans nicely are repeating the same exact.
Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree.